All right, we're going to talk about the migrant crisis, some of the issues happening around here. Buses carrying migrants may have found a loophole from New York City Mayor Eric Adams' executive order restricting buses entering the city.
So the bus company has found a way around the law New York City passed to try to stop migrant buses from coming to the city. All right, welcome to the channel. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. But let's get into the migrant crisis. We all know the story. Sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, they begged for migrants to come there. Here's the New York governor screaming, "We want migrants to come here. We want migrants to come here."
We want people to come here, despite where they came from or despite the circumstances that drove them to this country and to this state. We say you are welcome here. We are welcome with open arms, and we'll work to keep you safe. We'll not only house you, but we'll protect you. And the richness of the culture and the diversity and the food and the restaurants that we know are going to be coming because of these efforts are beyond measure. It's an extraordinary part of our story. And it's woven into the story of New York, and it makes us more vibrant.
So you heard that, right? I'm not lying. So the Texas governor said, okay, well, if you guys want migrants, you guys want to take care of them, here are the migrants.
Driven by bus and fueled by politics, another wave of migrants arrived in New York City today.
Dozens of migrants are arriving in New York City, not because it's where they wanted to go or because it's close to family. This is about politics, it appears. They're being sent from Texas because the governor there says President Biden's immigration policies are causing a surge in migrants arriving in his state, overwhelming communities there. And so he's sending them elsewhere, namely to Democrat-led states and cities.
Now listen, people, Greg Abbott is a genius for what he did because he took a local issue and made it a national issue. Everybody has to suffer for it because if you want to make change at the border, it's got to come from the national government. And that's what he did. By sending them to New York and Chicago and all these places, he made it a national issue. So right after that, New York is like, my God, we got migrants coming? Even though we wanted them to come here, even though the governor's screaming, yes, please have them come here, we don't really want migrants. So they had a state of emergency, right? We got a problem. There are too many migrants coming.
We are in a crisis situation. New York City now has more than 61,000 people in our shelter system. That includes thousands of New Yorkers experiencing homelessness and thousands of asylum seekers who have been bussed in over the past few months from other parts of the country. Our right to shelter laws, our social services, and our values are being exploited by others for political gain. New Yorkers are angry. I am angry too. We have not asked for this. There was never any agreement to take on the job of supporting thousands of asylum seekers. This responsibility was simply handed to us without warning as buses began showing up. We are at the edge of the precipice. We need serious partnership and realistic solutions. As I have said before, we need help, and we need it now.
So the migrants or the illegal immigrants that they wanted, that they were going to protect, that they were having sanctuary for, have been sent to them. Now, one of the things that I think is even crazier about this story is that the majority of migrants who have gone to New York weren't bused there from the Texas governor. They went there on their own after finding out that there were cities that would shelter them, that would pay for all their health care, that would do all these benefits for migrants, right? When they said there's a city that'll do all this, people just started going up there on their own. Why am I going to stay in Texas where they're essentially saying I can be arrested, where I can go to a sanctuary city like New York and be given housing and be given rights as citizens, right? It's a no-brainer. So guess what? They started going to New York on their own.
And so what they're now dealing with is, okay, New York City specifically has a right to shelter policy, meaning anyone who asks for shelter must get the shelter, which has actually made New York a far more desirable place for these migrants to go to. So the dominant narrative so far had been, oh, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is the one who's busing all of these people or sending all of these people to New York City, but he actually accounts for a small fraction of the migrants who have arrived in New York City. So I want to take you to graphic 5 here, because as the New York Times reports, after crossing the southern border, thousands have made their way to New York with the help of officials in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott has sent thousands in a campaign to provoke outrage and force the federal government to tighten border security. So he has done that to an extent. However, Abbott's buses account for only a small fraction of the people who have arrived. El Paso, a Democrat-led city, has also sent new arrivals to New York at the migrants' request, officials there have said, and some people have made their own way. So because of the fact that New York City has this right to shelter policy, obviously, if you're coming here as an asylum seeker, as you're going through the asylum process, as you're essentially waiting to have the ability to work here legally, you're gonna need a place to stay. And so naturally, people are going to gravitate toward parts of the country that have these types of policies that are far more friendly to individuals in need of shelter.
Lizette Nunez joins us now from Roosevelt Hotel. It's a migrant intake center in Midtown with more. Good morning, Lizette.
Good morning, Dana and Tashani. Well, I hate to say this, but we did kind of see this coming. So what some of these bus companies are doing is, instead of trying to drop off migrants here at the Port Authority bus terminal between 8:30 and 12:30 Monday through Friday, what they're doing is dropping off migrants at different cities and towns in New Jersey. Some of these migrants are now taking trains and eventually finding their way here to New York City.
Seems like a loophole.
New Jersey cities and towns are now feeling the effects of Mayor Adams' latest executive order on migrant arrivals. Secaucus Junction is just one of the sites where migrants have been dropped off to take trains to New York City.
From here, it's probably like a 5-7 minute ride from here to Penn Station in Manhattan.
Secaucus' mayor writing in a statement, "It seems quite clear the bus operators are finding a way to thwart the requirements of the executive order by dropping migrants at the train station in Secaucus and having them continue to their final destination." Mayor Adams' executive order requires bus companies that are transporting migrants to give a 32-hour notice before arriving. It only allows drop-offs near the Port Authority bus terminal Monday through Friday between 8:30 in the morning and noon. The rule was put in place to give officials more time to figure out where to place and house migrants. This comes after 14 buses arrived in New York City in one day.
We cannot allow buses with people needing our help to arrive without warning at any hour of day and night. This not only prevents us from providing assistance in an orderly way, it puts those who have already suffered so much in danger.
Over the weekend, Jersey City posted on X approximately 10 buses from various locations in Texas and one from Louisiana have arrived at various transit stations throughout the state, including Secaucus, Fanwood, Edison, and Trenton. Jersey City is working with Governor Murphy about what their next steps will be. Mayor Adams said the executive order is not meant to stop migrants from coming to the Big Apple, but allow for better coordination. However, now neighboring counties are also feeling the effects of this national crisis.
Yeah, if you want to come, come. We're supposed to be the land of the free, so give everybody the opportunity.
And the mayor of Edison, New Jersey is also reacting to this on social media. He says if any migrants arrive to his town, he's instructing for them to be bused back to the southern border. That's the latest from Midtown. Dana Tashani will send things back inside.
Lizette, thank you.
Now that's correct. If I'm a migrant and I know there's a sanctuary city, they literally call themselves a sanctuary city. I want to go to where there's sanctuary. That's why I came to the United States. I don't want to stay in Texas. There's no sanctuary here. So they're not dumb. They're going to go to the sanctuary. They're going to say, you're going to feed me? I want to go there. You're going to clothe me? I'm going to go there. You're going to give me shelter. I got a right to shelter as a migrant? Yeah, I want to exercise that right. So New York is in it. And the majority of people who are going there aren't being bused. Now, another big horror show is that they want to tell you that this is all Governor Abbott. They're evil Republicans, but it's the Democratic mayor of some of these border towns who are busing the migrants up there. Check it out.
Moving on now to a follow-up story. The city of El Paso says they will continue to send migrants by bus to other parts of the country.
That's right, even as the mayor of New York City calls for buses of migrants from Texas to stop coming. Our Shelby Cap has more on how the city here is reacting to those statements.
We need help, and we need it now.
The city of El Paso says around 10,000 unsponsored migrants, meaning they do not have family or friends in the U.S. to help them, have been sent to New York and Chicago. Now, the mayor of New York City specifically asking El Paso to stop sending buses.
This is unsustainable. The city is going to run out of funding for other priorities.
But the city of El Paso also saying the situation in our city is unsustainable. In September, 26,000 migrants were released in El Paso, with 50% not having sponsors. The city estimating the cost to El Paso since July 1st, now more than $6 million.
So just to be clear, that's a Democrat mayor in a Democratic city sending migrants to the sanctuary Democratic cities of the Northeast who requested migrants to come there. That's as simple as it gets. So then New York and Chicago wanted to start playing games. They wanted to secretly close their borders, but still allow migrants to come into the country. So in other words, migrants can come into the country, but they just can't come here. So the way they did this is saying, okay, what we're going to make it extremely hard for migrants to be bused into the city. So what they did, they started passing rules and regulations that constricted the times where buses can arrive.
When Adams issued an executive order for bus companies transporting migrants that requires at least a 32-hour notice, restricts drop-offs to Port Authority Monday through Friday between 8:30 a.m. and noon, and requires a manifest of everyone on board.
So New York passed the law, said they can only come at the designated time, at the designated place, so I can do my thing, even though this is really just restricting the buses from coming. That's the name of the game. But the bus companies found a loophole. Well, we can just drive the migrants to the edge of New York and then pay for them to commute into the city. And there's no restrictions. They can't restrict anything like that, right? We can drive them to the bus or train stop right outside the city, let them off, pay their fare to go into the city, and there's nothing the mayor can do, and we can let them off whatever time we want. So that's what the bus companies are starting to do.
Good morning, Dana and Tishani. Well, I hate to say this, but we did kind of see this coming. So what some of these bus companies are doing is, instead of trying to drop off migrants here at the Port Authority bus terminal between 8:30 and 12:30 Monday through Friday, what they're doing is dropping off migrants at different cities and towns in New Jersey. Some of these migrants are now taking trains and eventually finding their way here to New York City.
Seems like a loophole.
New Jersey cities and towns are now feeling the effects of Mayor Adams' latest executive order on migrant arrivals. Secaucus Junction is just one of the sites where migrants have been dropped off to take trains to New York City.
From here, it's probably like a 5-7 minute ride from here to Penn Station in Manhattan.
Secaucus' mayor writing in a statement, "It seems quite clear the bus operators are finding a way to thwart the requirements of the executive order by dropping migrants at the train station in Secaucus and having them continue to their final destination."
We're going to turn now to the asylum seeker crisis in New York City. And just days after Mayor Adams' new restrictions for buses of migrants went into effect, it appears some have now found a loophole. Instead of stopping in New York City, the charter buses are going to New Jersey and then forcing those migrants to commute into the city.
10 from Texas and 1 from Louisiana, skirting Mayor Adams' bus arrival mandate in the city by dropping migrants off at New Jersey transit stations in Secaucus, Fanwood, Edison, and Trenton. Secaucus Mayor Michael Gannelli says it appears all the migrants arriving there were given tickets to board trains to the city.
Now listen, people, you have to think about the hypocrisy that's on full display here. New York is essentially closing the border. So just imagine if New York was at the southern border and put these same rules into place. If migrants are going to come, we need 32-hour notice. We also need you to only come between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock, Monday through Friday. Just imagine if those rules that New York has put into place for the buses, for the migrant buses, were employed at the southern border. It would be a totally different situation. But that's the hypocrisy here. They don't want reasonable immigration reform. They just want it to be somebody else's problem and for them to claim to be sanctuary cities. But when you claim to be a sanctuary city and people come and say, we want to take part in that sanctuary, now They've done the exact opposite and essentially have closed off their border, made it a bubble. Not everyone can go get sanctuary there now, right? You have people in Texas who want to come up there, but because of these restrictions, can't make it there. The sanctuary city's closed. Matter of fact, New York is actively sending people to the border to tell people not to come to the city. The governor is now saying, don't come to New York City, the sanctuary city.
Mayor Eric Adams is in Mexico today.
The mayor is on his trip through Latin America. It's all in hopes of convincing asylum seekers to not come to New York.
When you come to New York, we're not going to have more hotel rooms. We don't have capacity. So we have to also message properly that we're at our limit. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else with this. If you're going to leave your country, go somewhere else.
So just so people are clear about what's actually even happening with the border, is that all these asylum seekers are essentially economic migrants who don't want to go through the normal channels of the immigration policy. So this is a fast track. Come in here and say, hey, I'm claiming asylum. And then you get into the country. They can't kick you out. Then they got to figure out if you are worthy of asylum or not. And generally, most of these people are just lying, saying they're looking for asylum. There are some legitimate asylum seekers, but the majority of people are not being honest. So what happens is that, the people in New York just say, well, they're all asylum seekers, let them all in. But it was all right when it wasn't their problem. So Texas was like, all right, if that's the way you feel about it, if you don't want to keep these people out, knowing that a lot of them aren't seeking asylum, they're just trying to play the system, we'll send them to you and let them play the system up there. And now they have to deal with those consequences. But as always, tell me where I'm in the comment section. Tell me where you disagree. My name is Dave the Lawyer, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.